Whoa. Good afternoon, dear people. Just a practical note. If you haven't signed up yet, please leave your signature, otherwise we'll be in a fight with the European Union. And second of all, there is more food, so also take 5 more minutes to have some lovely extra food if you want to. And I'll be back in 5 minutes. Ready? Right. Well, it's 1 o'clock in Amsterdam, so good afternoon, beautiful people. Welcome to the European Expert Meeting on the Prevention of Street Harassment. Thank you for coming from wherever you came, in Europe, in the Netherlands, etc. We'll be hosting this event today. My name is Bas Swiers. I'm Program Manager at Emancipator, and therefore also as a trainer very active with all kinds of workshops, etc. And I wasn't that involved in this project, but you were, so.
Yes, hello, my name is René. I'm a trainer at Emancipator, and I've been to Spain with some of the Emancipator colleagues to discuss with the fellow organizations about what exercises are useful to tackle street harassment in the different contexts that we all encounter. And so I'm very happy to see that we've come to this point in the project, that we have a nice presentation later on of the how do we call it, the Equalley pamphlet, or and with all that with everything in it, and I will give it back to you.
Yes, thank you. We'll try to make this program interactive. There's a lot of experience in this room, so it is going to be about sharing that experience together, finding out, hey, how are you doing that all the way in Poland, in Amsterdam, in Utrecht, in Portugal, in Spain, wherever. So, Berend, can you give me the next slide, please? So this is the program for today. We'll start with a check-in, so you get to know some of the people in this room as well. Then we'll tell you more about this project. Some of you were involved in the Equalley project, others came to hear about it, so we tell you all there is to know. And you will also meet the partners involved in this project. They will tell more about what they did in their surroundings in their country with their target groups, etc. Then we'll try to do one of the exercises from the guidebook, from the toolkit. It will be a teaser, just a small bit of a part of an exercise, just to give you an idea. And then Jens will be here. He's the founder of Emancipator. He will do a keynote on why it is so important to include men as part of the solution when we want to prevent street harassment. Then there will be a panel discussion with the municipality of Amsterdam, Fairspace, Dutch organization, the University of Lodz, and I'll keep practicing on your Orchakwara organization from Spain, and the beautiful work you've done also within this project. Then there will be a short break, and then we'll do a World Cafe to look at some of the topics we all are dealing with, struggling with, have experience on, so we can share those with each other. And at the end there will be a soap box. I will explain later what it is. And then we'll have time for some drinks, and that will be the most important time of this meeting. Not because of the drinks, because there you can go like, oh, I heard what you said in the check-in. I really want to know more about your organization, about what you do. Welcome. So that will be the program for today. And we'll start with the check-in. Can I have the next slide, please? And before we do the check-in, there's one thing I want to teach you. This sign. It's the sign language for love. And I always use it in workshops to say, I love you, I hear you, I support you. So when you might be sharing something, I might be going like this. But I also use it to say, I love you and please shut up. Well, not like that, please be quiet. For instance, when I ask you to share like an exercise with a duo, at some point I will raise my hand. And if you see me raise my hand, you stop talking and also raise your hand. And you will see within 20 seconds a group is silent without me having to shout at the group. That makes it a lot more fun for me as well. And we're going to practice that. So just turn to a neighbor and ask, how are you doing? And at some point I will raise my hand and see if it works. Oh, wow. That wasn't even 20 seconds, it was like 5 seconds. You are really pros, thank you. We're going to use it in a next check-in exercise. And in a minute I will ask you to stand up and find a partner who you don't know already. You might be here with someone from your organization or etc. And as a duo you stand together and both of you will have 90 seconds to answer a question. I will say who goes first. After 90 seconds there will be the sign again, and then the second person will have time to tell why you are here. When you're listening, you don't have to ask any questions. You don't have to, well, maybe you can say, yeah, I hear you. That's all you need to do. But you have to listen carefully, because afterwards maybe you might be invited to tell something about your partner. Like, I spoke to René and yada, 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 yada. So, first find a partner. And you can stand up and walk towards someone. And if you don't have a partner, if you can't find a partner, raise a hand, then René will be your partner. So, anyone who doesn't have a partner? Everyone has a partner? Okay. So, the person who lives furthest away from this spot on Earth goes first. And you will have 90 seconds to tell the other person, why did you come to this meeting today? Maybe what it is you think you can bring to this meeting, or also what do you hope to get out of this meeting? So check with each other who lives furthest away. And if you know, then the first person can start sharing. You have 45 more seconds for the first person. Twenty more seconds. Start wrapping up. So, if you listened, thank this person for whatever they might have shared. And now it's time for the second person. Your story, why are you here? What do you come to bring? What do you might want to take out of it? And you don't need to react on what the other person said. It's your story, your 1.5 minutes. Go ahead. Yeah, 45 more seconds. Jij gaat zo ophangen.
Start wrapping up, please. And for the second person who listened, thank your partner who told you their story. And take a seat with your partner. And I'm gonna ask some people to share something about what you have told the other partner, or what your partner has told you. And you get a very short amount of time, and boss will be very strict about it. Can you tell me what your partner shared?
Yes, my partner was Laura, and she's one of the founders from Fairspace, and she is working of addressing this, what do you call it, street harassment for 8 years now, and she is here to network, to get, to be inspired, but also to share what she is doing with her organization, with the European partners.
Great, thank you. Can you share something about what your partner said to you?
Yes, I can. Sorry if I not pronounce it right. It's Isaiah? Yes, okay. So I pronounce a lot, I tried this a lot. She's from Spain, from Bilbao. And she's part of the project as well from Spain. And she's a teacher in linguistics, basic math, and many other things. And she's here also to learn how to apply some things in her classes.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you share something about what your partner shared?
Yeah, so this is Ginny. She works at the gemeente in English, municipality of Amsterdam. And she's here just to see how everything goes, to connect with international people. And to learn something, to think about out of the box. I think that's,
Great, thank you. Can you share something?
Yes, my partner is Anna. She's from Spain. She's actually here because she's part of the program. And she's really, really excited because she's been working with everyone here for so long. And it's the first time that she gets to be in the same space with everyone. And that's, that was really moving to hear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you share something about what your partner shared?
Yes, it's Miriam. She's from Brussels, and she's working for an organization called ROSA on gender equality. And she's here, of course, because she likes Amsterdam a lot. And she was curious about the outcomes for all the research for equality had done. Basically, that's it.
Yes. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Great.
She's Shanti. and she's from Amsterdam, and she's been working for Emancipator since February, and she also works with another organization. No.
No, other projects.
Oh, the project, sorry. About violence on women and gender, programs on basis on genders. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, thank you. More? Two? Can you share something?
Yeah, so I was with Utska from Poland. She's representing one of the partnerships here at the university from Poland. And we were mainly talking about how in Poland it's still very traditional with the values, in the sense where it's not very open yet to with legal marriages and surrounding these topics. And so it was just interesting to hear, because I come from Lisbon, Portugal, and it's a lot more diverse and open. So
Thank you very much.
Yes. What's your name? I forgot your name. Miranda. She's from WMO-raad, and she does how would you say this? She works on street harassment, like in practice in Rotterdam. So very interesting to hear, what they do in practice in Rotterdam.
Great, thank you very much. Last but not least.
Yes, my partner is from Italy, Nadia, and she worked on the project for the last 2 years and developed a platform, an internet platform with teaching possibilities for youngsters.
Great, thank you very much. One more.
Yeah, this is Maya. She lives in Amsterdam, and she'd been wanting to come to an emancipatory event that was available in English for quite some time, so she's happy that she can listen what's going on now. And then the second half we were quiet and just thought about our lives and the presence here, which was also a very fun, stabilizing moment.
Nice, thank you very much. One more.
Hi, yeah, my partner was Dunja. She works at an anti-discrimination organization in Rotterdam, but focusing on, bigger part of the south of the Netherlands. And you were here to, just to learn more, and we were also talking about how street harassment, of course, often intersects with racism as well, so also to learn more about that.
Yes, very important point, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Just gotta check where we are. We'll continue with partners. So if all the partners...
Could you first tell a little bit more about what Equalley is?
Yes, Equalley is a European project, so with different international partners from Portugal, Italy, Spain, Poland and the Netherlands, all here on the screen, and all from different perspectives working on street harassment. And we've come together in the past few years to learn from each other what the different perspectives are, like what happens in our different societies, what are things that we, what are waar we tegenaan lopen? Hurdles. What are hurdles that we encounter, and what are the differences, and how can we learn from each other? So that's been happening over the last few years online, but also a few times we've come together as right now here too. And I would like to let the different partners come here all together, and you have some time to introduce your organization a little bit and what your perspective is. So can from other organizations somebody come up here, please?
prepare a presentation? Or do you want to...
Just like this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. Okay. Can you start?
I can start.
Yes.
Okay. So hi everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm one of the partners from Equalley. We are a research action company in Portugal. We do this kind of projects with different teams. Like this one is for gender violence, but sometimes we do artificial intelligence, education, tourism, and so many things. And we do this kind of project that is a European project. And we do this kind of things. And this is the one that you can see of the one that you have, the guide. And we are responsible, everybody is responsible for one of the things of the project. Right now, Berend and the team was responsible for the guide that you have. And Equalley team was responsible for the course that we prepared. But I think it's one University of Lodz. It was the one that prepared the booklet on street harassment. But we all do the same job, and we, like, between us, do the things that you have there. And that's it. If you have any questions, yeah, sure.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I came from Escuela Profesional Otzarkoaga. Otzarkoaga is a Basque name. Itself is the name of the town. And, well, this year is our 60th birthday, so we are celebrating. And, well, Otzarkoaga has itself 3 different buildings. It has secondary school, vet, upper vet, initial vet, basic vet, workshops like electricity, wood, well, a lot of that now, don't remember the name, but well, different specialties. And also a foundation that helps students with different needs or have difficulties to obtain their first job, so to help also that kind of students, because the profile of our students is very special because of their special needs, curriculum mismatches, they are really motivated, so it's a special profile. And well, I think that is the, yes, more or less the summarize of the school.
Hello everybody, my name is Katia and I'm from Euronet, one of the partners of the Equalley project. I'm very proud to be here today with you, and it's really a pleasure that our project has finalized in a great way. So we have accomplished everything that we have to do on time, and also the quality of the outputs are very high, and all of you can test reading by reading also the guide to the course. Euronet in particular was responsible for the e-learning platform, that is an interactive platform that you can find on internet, where you can find activities, digital activities that students, because the project was targeted for pupils 13-16, so the pupils can go by their own and can try the activities that all the partners decided to select for this project. And I thank you all the partners for sharing their competence in these projects, and to put together our forces to make also the online platform so attractive and so valuable for the future. So I invite all of you to have a tour guide on our site web, and to try and to use the platform, and also to advise our platform to the other people and stakeholders possible involved in the results of the projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much to be here, and it's really a pleasure to be the Equalley family and the part. I represent the University of Łódź from Poland. I'm not alone, but my 2 friends need to stay in Poland, Wanda and Gabrysia. And like a university, we are classical universities, mean that we are more responsible for theory, for research part, yes, and that's why we are more responsible for the booklet, for example, to prepare the more theoretical part, what is mean street harassment, why we are interested with that, and the research, because the part of this booklet was also to prepare the focus group, and it was for us a good idea to prepare the next step, because we want to know what the teachers know about this, for example, in Poland, in Portugal, and in other countries, and how they think we can do more about this, what we can change or not. And for us, it was important that we are in a different country. It means that we have a totally different political parts, we are totally different government or something like that. And we also, because it was my experience, I also have a lot of stereotypic about what does it mean street harassment. And when we started, we talk about this, that I thought that in Italy they have more street harassment than in Poland, but it's not true. The research shows us that the problem is the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so if it's okay for you, I want you four to come back, and also René, because he joined in the progress, because I have some more questions I want to ask you, if that's okay. So I want to invite you back. All the four of you who just presented. Because before Berend will show more about the outcomes and the toolkits, I'm really curious, like, why did Europe need this project? Like, who started it and said we really need to come together from different countries and work on this? Why was Equalley started? Is someone? Yeah, sure. Join the group. Join the group.
The project was an idea and an invitation from Learn from Portugal, and they contact us in Bilbao because we've worked together several times before. Because we, as our profile was a school, we had more opportunity we fitted more to apply for the project. And then we decided to create this consortium. We've been working, we knew each other, we knew each institution from other projects. So we thought it would be a great team, and it is.
Anyone else on why did you join, or why street harassment?
Oh, street harassment is a very important issue also nowadays, and it is widespread in the world, so it is a common problem that affects both guys and girls. So we decided to work on this theme, street harassment, to give a hand to the young boys to react with convention, and also very strongly to this kind of problem that they can face during their lives.
And I also think it's very important that oftentimes it is overlooked what the part of boys and men can be in these types of situations and in these problems. Oftentimes it is said that we need to empower the people, the victims, and then it will all be well. But that doesn't work like that. And as emancipator, we find it very important that we engage boys and men to play a role in being part of the solution, and not staying on the sidelines because they don't, or maybe have less experience with things as street harassment. So I think that's an important balance in that, the role boys and men should play.
I think that part of the answer is above there. That pyramid you can see in the booklet. but I think that it's only the surface, and we have a lot above of it. I think that more is murder, right, in English? Okay, so this is part of the project of what we want to speak and explain today, but we have a lot of this. Only is just another thing that we see in everyday lives, and we have to discuss and work on it.
Still waiting for the second mic to drop in. I heard you talk also about coming together and check out the differences and also where there's overlap in working. You also mentioned political differences, but I'm also curious, like, did you see any like cultural differences or the way you work with groups, etc.? Can someone elaborate a little bit on that? And also maybe what you learned from other groups talking about that with each other.
Thanks, absolutely. For example, in Poland, the street harassment is like the part of the culture. It means that it's normal, yes, that some men, for example, catcalling or something like that, or lauded or shouted, whatever. Especially in the people who works in the close to the building or something like that, repair, renovate or something like that, and this is natural. Or even some part of our family, for example, some uncle, yes, or some closer, yes, can say something about how you look your body, whatever. And but I think even for my students, when we talk about this project in my classes, they said, but all of us and all of them, how to say, be the part of this kind of street harassment, yes? And for them, the first was, oh, but this is natural. Even in a kindergarten, someone told you, this is normal that someone shot you and do it something like that. I think it's more connected. But this is what I said before, that I thought that we don't have such main problem in Poland, But I thought that machism culture or something like that, Italy, Spain or something, yes. But it was amazing for me because I want to learn more about the problem like that.
Well, in our case, for example, at Otsarkoaga, as I said, our profile of students is very special. A lot of them come from another countries, Algeria, Morocco, and so this is something that feminism and things like and behaviors like that they don't assume, and it's not part of their life. So, for example, in my case, in the last class of March before holidays, I made a questionnaire to them to ask if they think that feminism is necessary in our lives, and 90% answered no. So
I can say it's also, I think, connected in Poland more with the religion part also. Patriarchal religion, Catholic in Poland, because 19% of Polish people are Catholic. It's not mean practice, but still Catholic. And I think this is also connected, culture, religion, and another part, I think.
But in fact, the situation of Italy, Poland, Spain, and Portugal are very similar. The only exception are the Netherlands in the reality, in this situation, in this thematic. The Netherlands are very modern respect our countries, and also for this reason, the reaction against the street harassment is different sometimes. Also, the perception of the thematic is different, just for a cultural background.
Yeah, René, can you tell something about that? Because I'm not so sure.
Yeah, maybe from outside looking in, it can seem that way. But the encounters I have and my colleagues have as we come into classes is, I think, very similar to what you just have described. So it's maybe more subtle in a way, and not as much on the at the forefront. But I think we still have the similar problems, and we also still have to do a lot about. And even though there's like some legislation maybe here that's already in place, but that doesn't always mean that all people in society are okay with all people being who they are and behaving the way they want to. So I think that's also important.
Thank you. Yeah, what is one of the most, like, can you tell me a little bit about something you did within your country with groups, and how did they react it on maybe new things you tried out because of the Equalley program? Maybe an exercise you learned from someone else, or a discussion you had that you didn't have before. Like, what happened on the ground?
I think we, after preparing the course, we pilot that course with students, with pupils. I didn't do it myself, but my colleague did. I think students were willing to work on that, but at the same time they didn't want to. I don't know if I explain myself, because they know there is something wrong, and they know they are doing the things wrong, and they want to change, but they fear the change also. So, but it was very, very interesting and motivating for them.
I think in Portugal with the pilot action it went well, and we can see a lot of difference between men and girls, boys and girls. The girls are more like, no, we can't do that, like this, and more like challenge the boys about the things. But I think the boys didn't, that's like, what can I say? It was like they want to change, but the education that they receive at home sometimes differ on the things they do. And one of the things, I don't know, I think it's common in Europe, it's the ascending of the fascism governments. And in Portugal we have that case now. We have a party that's called Chega, that's like enough. And they are focused a lot on TikTok. And right now it's like we can see the difference, the girls and the boys from like the 10 until 18, something less, they are like changing the things that they used to think. And yeah, I think we need to focus on boys and girls because of that too, because these kind of parties are focused on young boys, because they know that the children, they don't know about this. So yeah, I think we have to be careful and to pursue the girls and boys, and not so like us that we already know about the problem and we want to do different things, but to focus on girls and boys, yeah.
Mm-hmm. For example, our student, I think, because as it started when the government in Poland was more conservative, and we couldn't do it in the public school because the problem is, connected with a gender, but the gender is someone who scary people and blah, blah, blah in Poland was. That's why we use the private school. It means that in private school, students are more awareness about the problem, they are more open, they want to discuss, and it wasn't for them surprise or something like that. But when the government in Poland was changed now for a few months, and I hope they will be longer, not only for this month, it means that when we prepare the multiplayer events in Poland, we can invite another school, another people to join with this, and I hope that it's changed something. But we should know that the private school in Poland, they are totally different than in public, of course, yes, that's why it was.
Okay, thank you. And so in your answer, I also hear that today is not the end of the project, but you are still carrying on. After this, there will be events, workshops within your different countries.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if we come together again next year to hear about that, but maybe that would be interesting. I think for now, I really want to thank you for your collaboration and everything you've put into both the program and this presentation. So maybe a warm applause. And then we're going to look some more into what does this mean, this Equalley and this toolkit and guidebook. But before that, I'm also an activist, so I'm not sure if I'm picking up some, well, something I want to share because of what you said as well. Currently in the Netherlands, we have a government, or we might have a government in the near future, where the leader of the biggest party said that talking about things like street harassment will mean that our race will die out. Because he said in parliament that talking about this will prevent people from ever getting into relations, having sex and making children. So also in the Netherlands there is a bit of a political climate going on. This was a personal note. Berend, can you tell me more about Equalley, the tool guide? And please an applause for Berend, who organized this event and made sure this guide was there and all the other things.
Hello. We have to change the computer a bit, so give me 1 minute. But thank you all so much for coming. I'm very happy to see all of you. And also, I'm very happy to meet the partners finally, because before we were always online. Now it's finally nice to be in person. Okay, I see it's getting ready. Okay. And yeah, no. So I will give a little bit explanation about the guide, which finished today, and which you all have hopefully, or you can take one home. There are one in Dutch and one is in English. Yes, a lot of some things about the guide have already been said. So it's a collaboration between 5 different organizations from 5 different countries, and it's a European Union funded project. And so this guide goes along with a toolkit and with a booklet. In a booklet, you will find more theoretical information, as already been said before. And in the toolkit, you will actually find the exercises which you can use as an educator. And in the end of the book, you will also see a little scheme where you can find the different topics for the different uses of the exercises that you can see. And so this guide, next slide, is meant for people who are working in education with children from 12 to 16 years old. And it has some theories, but most of the theories is actually in the booklet. And this is mostly as a guide with the toolkit itself. So it will also consist of tips and energizers for working with these children, because talking about the topic with older people might be very different than talking with youngsters. And so the guide provides some advice and tips to better help to work with these people, and so that you can have effective forms of education. Next slide, please. So the topics of the guide, a lot of it has already been told. The main topic, of course, is tackling street harassment. And from the role of emancipators, each organization had its own special knowledge before. And from emancipator, it was the role of men within street harassment and masculinity, and how can you make sure that boys don't become perpetrators, but instead become allies. So this was our take from how to approach the topic, and this is our main contribution also to the guide. But further, there was the topics within the guide, as you can see, concerns victim blaming, self-empowerment, gender stereotypes, gender violence. And this guide is not just to teach the children, but it's also very much focused on how can you create an exchange. So not me now as an educator telling you how you should do it, how you should tackle street harassment, but more how can these children talk about it and learn from themselves, learn from their experiences, because a lot of children have experiences with street harassment, and so they can learn from each other, and it's not a top-down approach, but more learning from each other. Next slide, please. Yes, and to give a little insight, as Bas was saying before already, to give a little insight about the toolkit, we will perform a little exercise. A small disclaimer, we have limited time, so we cannot do the whole exercise. Normally it takes a bit longer, but this is just to give a little glimpse from you. So I will give the microphone back to you.
Yes, we will do a short version of the exercise boundaries, and we are looking for 6 volunteers who would like to take part in the exercise. Yes, come along. Who else? We're going to do it at the same time, all 6 people.
Yeah. Yes, please come to the front.
Thank you.
2, 3, Hessel, thank you. 4,
yes,
5, and we have 6. Beautiful, thank you. Give them a round of applause already.
Yeah, can you come?
Sorry, one more.
With 6, yeah. Okay, so the exercise is called Boundaries, and we're gonna explore each other's and our own boundaries. So you can stand like this and stand toward each other. So you're like in a duo.
3 of you come over here, like next to me.
Yeah.
And 3 of you next to René over there.
Here. Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, and then the people on this side, you can walk towards the person who is in front of you, and the people here, you can say stop when you feel that your boundary is met. That you're like, this is the point where I'm still comfortable, but don't go any further than that. And what is important in this exercise is to do it in silence and try to be aware of what happens in your body as you're doing the exercise. And this is for both sides. So for the people who are walking towards the other, but also for the people who are seeing the people walking towards them. And then we will see what happens. Okay. Yes, you do say stop. If the boundary is there, then you say stop. Yes. Is it clear, the exercise? Yes? Okay, then you can start. Okay, then the people can stand a bit back. What happened here?
I was too late saying stop. AKA she walked too fast. I don't know where the problem lay, but yeah, then it was like a little bit too much in my space. Yes. Definitely in this case not threatening, but a bit like
And how did it feel, the space between you?
Yeah, tense. Like someone's in my space, you know. It's.
What did you feel in your body?
Yeah, tension, and in this sense, not like a real threat, but more like discomfort.
And I was wondering, how was it for you to get that close?
No issue.
There was no moment where you thought, say stop, or?
No.
You already checked in with each other. That's also.
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. How was it for you?
It was fine, but at a certain point when she came closer, I was thinking, oh, was there garlic in the food? Do I have to say stop, because otherwise I'll blow the garlic in her face. So that came through my head.
So you were taking care of her boundaries instead of yours.
Yeah.
So how was the distance?
Fine.
How was that for you?
I think it was too close, but usually I don't know. Yeah, in Italy we talk very close. Maybe I feel like another culture, in the Netherlands, you're a bit more distant. But maybe it's my impression.
But for you, it felt too close.
Yeah, today, yes. It depends from day to day.
And why didn't you stop?
Because I was in her hands. She was in charge.
So it was only about her boundaries, not your boundaries.
Yes.
That's quite interesting how easy it is to forget your own boundaries. Right?
Okay. And how was it for you?
Well, at the end, I was like, we are much further apart than they are, but now I'm glad that there was a mistake. And because it felt fine. Like, you worked very slowly towards me. And I think at some point it was like, this is a normal distance that I would have with someone I do not know yet. Yeah, and I felt comfortable. And I was like, we can have a conversation at this distance.
How was it for you?
I would have liked to stop here.
And why didn't you?
Because the instruction was to wait for her to say stop.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that happens. If I can give an example from in a class where this also has happened. Usually we give a lot of workshops with only boys, but sometimes we also have mixed groups. And in this instance, it was a mixed group, and there was a boy standing on one side and a girl on the other, and the girl was walking towards the boy, and the boy didn't say stop, and the girl kept on walking, and she was like totally against him, and he was like being all the tough guy and saying, "Oh, look at this to the other boys." But she was very uncomfortable. I could see that in her body language and in everything. But she, as you also now said, heard the instruction and didn't feel that that she could stop if before, like, the other person said stop. So it's also always a very interesting situation.
Maybe someone from the audience, something you noticed, you saw happening. I heard some laughter in the audience as well, so maybe comment on that. Or a question to the group.
No, just something interesting that I was thinking about is there was a psychological study that I was reading that was explaining how people's personal spaces and their distance of proximity not necessarily changes culturally, because I know you made a comment of maybe Italy and stuff, but they found research suggesting that it's people that are from overpopulated cities have maybe more closer personal space proximity, and they're used to being closer because of their overpopulated cities. Whereas if maybe they come from like a suburb or somewhere where there's more space, they're used to having further proximal zones. So it's just interesting that maybe there's not even a cultural difference, but maybe even just like location in the sense where you're used to maybe growing up. And then it's also respecting people's boundaries. So understanding with the guy and the girl situation, maybe, you know, different kind of body reactions and physical reactions, and just kind of reading someone's reaction to, okay, maybe that's their space.
I was thinking, no, sorry. Go on. Okay. I used to teach like 11, 12, 13 years old, and I also think it has to do with agency, because we're really drilling kids to listen to me as a teacher, and they do as I tell them. And it's also like encapsulated in this exercise. You say stop, but it isn't implied that we just don't listen to the, opdracht, assignment. So yeah, just a little side note.
And I think it's an interesting one, because what do we learn in society about, can you even say stop? Are you allowed to say stop? When it comes, for instance, to dating, I always learned I have to take the initiative. I never learned I could say no. So there's already, when I'm on the receiving side of the exercise, or any side, I never learned that I can even say stop. So it's not just the teacher, it's also society. And I think also for some, like girls, etc. Well, I think most people learn, be flexible with your boundaries, be a nice person. Maybe at school that you did say something about your boundaries, and then the teacher says, but we have to move on, there are more important things, or things like boys will be boys, or he might fancy you. In Dutch we say, like if you tease a girl, you ask for kisses. So it's normalization also of not even thinking about your boundaries, I think, what comes up. But also the agency of you as a teacher is part of it as well, yeah.
Because of the hierarchy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think that we should also teach kids that, like, the context of things, and not just that you just keep on, you tell me this and I'll do this,
And that's a beautiful conversation you can have, for instance, also when it comes to, and if it happens on your soccer club and your coach is there, what does his or her role mean, etc. So anything that happens here can give you a conversation of about an hour with a group that can go on and on and on. That's an interesting part of the exercise.
I was thinking about the task, because it was an idea that you need to go there and this person need to tell you stop. If not, you go cross, yes? And I also was thinking that because it's a task, and that's why I forgot about myself, because I can also say stop is not my space, but I forgot because the task. I need to, yes?
Yes, I'm also a therapist, also a trainer, but an educator, but also a therapist. And I have a lot of experience with this exercise, but I also have worked a lot with children who have autism, or who have been a lot of problems with attachment. And for them, it's really hard to say, stop when your boundaries. So I changed the exercise, and I tell them, you stop when something's changed. Because when I say to them, stop when you feel your boundaries, then I ask them that if they can feel, and they can translate the feeling into thoughts, and the thoughts into language. So I changed the exercise a little bit, because the question stop when you feel your boundaries is for a lot of kids is way too much. So I say stop if anything changes.
Thank you. And I think that's a good thing to, if you get the guidebook and the toolkit, tools are tools, and you make the program with the tools. You decide how to use it. I might use a hammer to break a walnut. René might use a hammer to put a nail in the wall. It's the same hammer. So, like you said, adjust it, adapt it, use it the way you want to do, because then it works best. So thank you for that.
First of all, everyone was thank you for volunteering, because I was kind of like boundaries. No, I'm not going, not going. So I think that was my boundary telling me not to do it. So happy that you volunteered. I started laughing quite uncomfortably because I was quite in front of this situation, and I think they handled very well, but I was kind of stressed out in their place. I was kind of like, oh, where is this going? So I think you managed well to just stay very at ease, kind of like in the uncomfortable situation, which was quite nice. I think part of the difficulty as well is indeed like making sure how to say stop, because for example I learned not to use the word stop because stop is rude. So I was kind of like, are there other signals to like non-verbally indeed, or like anything that you can use to not say the word stop directly, because well, especially to someone you don't know, it's quite like I've been taught that it's quite rude. So indeed it's also already like, how have you learned to say stop and to put your boundaries? But in general, I think it was a very good exercise to get a grip on the exercise in the booklet, yeah.
And I think important to add to that, thank you for this comment, is that we expect of perpetrators, of boys and men, to that they don't cross boundaries, but how can we expect them if they don't know their own boundaries, let alone the boundaries of others? So like talking about boundaries is something really different than feeling it in your body, and then also saying something about it, communicating it. So there's so many things to be said, and what happens in this exercise. Yeah.
And I think one last thing. First, let us thank this beautiful group. Or do you want to say something more? Yeah, sorry.
Because what I also was feeling that I'm trying to think of my boundary, but at the same time I'm also thinking for you, like, do you want to get closer? Because I'm still good, but so you're also trying to fill in for the other one. So what do you feel at the same time? So it's quite a complex moment. You're trying to both protect yourself, but also the other one.
Yeah, and in that you can have the discussion like, how do we even learn to communicate about boundaries without being rude or without. As a man, I've noticed that I've always, in dating situation, thought I will try this and hopefully there is no, because I didn't know how to ask. Can I do the next thing? It was also always like, okay, which is not much fun. But learning to ask, so where are we, where on this line do we meet today? That's a beautiful tool if you can bring it to groups or to young people. So thank you for volunteering. Can I have another applause for this group? And just one more thing before we invite Jens, so Berend has some time to change the laptops again. Last Monday, I did this exercise with a group of teachers, professionals in a University of Applied Science. And just the explanation already gave 20 questions. Yeah, but should I then do this? Should I? And that was the part of the exercise that was most interesting. Then doing the exercise itself was not, it was still fun. But just the fact that they started talking about, like, how do you even do that? What is a boundary? How do I know when to say stop? Yeah, you have to feel. Yeah, but how do I feel? So sometimes the exercise just becomes a conversation about boundaries without doing it, and then it's fun as well. Jens, can I invite you to take the stage? You will introduce yourself. I have to introduce yourself. So this is Jens van Tricht. Around 11 years ago, I met him in a workshop where I was confronted with my masculinity, and there were like question marks above my head. And he was then known as the only Dutch feminist, male Dutch feminist, which was not true, but still. So I started talking to him like, tell me more, I want to know more. So 11 or 12 years later, we're here working together at Emancipator. You're the founder of Emancipator, and you're going to tell us more about boys and men, I guess.
Thank you, Bas. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. Okay. But for the live stream, we need a microphone, I guess. Yeah, okay. So, good to be here. Strange to come in late. Actually, I don't like that. I want to be first and then see everyone come in. And now jumping in the middle, suddenly in this event that was going on already, is a bit weird. And it's also weird to give a keynote now, because I prefer doing exercises like this one before. It is my favorite one. We could spend the whole day elaborating on that. I would also really recommend doing it more often, because the first time maybe gives some insight, but it's really an exercise that is part of the everyday life. And now it was boundaries, but you can also make it, well, we call it sometimes, I think, consent walk. You can make it empathy walk. You can also ask the other person, the person who's walking, to stop themselves when they feel that it's getting awkward. Or you can have one person saying, oh, please come, and then the person will be in charge. Or you can ask the audience to say stop when they feel something is happening. And when I sit down next to you, we can also feel, oh my God, this is a bit close. So this is where in day-to-day, this is always there. And I think really it's important not just to be aware, but to practice. So yeah, having said that, now I'm afraid I have to do the keynote. Oh, one more thing, household thing. I came in, I'm responsible for this organization, so also somewhere for the money. And I registered and I signed after my name on the papers. I know there is some people here who haven't signed yet. Please do so before you go out, because otherwise it will cost us money. So I've said that, and maybe we will remind you again. I just come from Brussels. There was an EU network meeting on prevention of gender-based violence with representatives from many countries and experts, and really interesting presentations and a lot of tools, and really thinking, why is there no collective place where all this is gathered and where we can share it and make use of it? Why are we creating new toolkits all the time when we have toolkits already? Maybe this network is going to make a change there. This wonderful guide was also briefly presented there. Did we put the slide in the presentation somewhere? Yeah? No, okay. So, well, our colleague, Kelly whatever, from Men's Development Network in Ireland, and also Men Engaged Steering Committee member, he was showing this both on screen and in his hand to all those people. I also brought like 40 copies that were shared. So actually I'm rushing from one dissemination event to the other, even though there it was more guerrilla. I think my pointer is not working on this distance, so I will need you anyway. Yeah, and I started with this also because of the exercise you just did before, because I like it, and because it was part of the Imagine toolkit already. I think it's also in the Equiteens toolkit. It's really a key exercise that we're doing, and I'm really proud that now we also have the Equalley guide and toolbox available. So it is in a steady line of development of partnerships and toolkits and raising awareness, and also broadening the topic, because one time it's more about street harassment, then it's more about education or dating or sexuality, but in the end it's always about transforming masculinities. Can we have the next slide, please? Oh yeah, self-promotion. I need to say, if you want to know more about Emancipator, about my background, or the thoughts that are behind Emancipator, this book is available in several languages. I heard someone speak about MENA region discussions of feminism also. There is also an Egyptian Arabic version of Why Feminism is Good for Men available. Next, please. We have some copies to look at the table there. Can we get the next? Ah, yeah. You didn't have the Men Engaged video yet, huh? No. So, huh? It's coming?
Why are you crying? Like, man up.
That's a woman's role. That's not a man's role.
C'est garçon ou yé. All right? N'importe madame, c'est pour tendre qui ça ou même cap yo.
Lavamos, planchamos, cocinamos, limpiamos.
Spreading my seed, that's what being a man's supposed to be.
You can't let your woman punk you like that in the streets.
¿Qué tú estás haciendo ahí cambiándole los pampas al muchacho? Tú estás loco, muchacho. Tú eres el hombre de la casa, de la madre que lo hace.
If you don't keep your wife in line, if she doesn't follow what you say, then you're weak.
We all know that's BS.
I think it's crap.
In my opinion, none of us are born with these ideas.
It's old school, man. You know, it's 1920, 1950 shit, yo.
我不相信这些东西.
الأمور يجب عليها أن تتغير من أجل أن تتحسن الأوضاع.
It's not just idealism that we're discussing real flesh and blood human beings that are your brothers, your sisters.
Domestic violence has really left a permanent mark on my life.
Men still control society on a certain level. I've seen it with my wife, and I've seen her be judged and not be given opportunities.
As a young child, I was always told that, a girl ought to do this, she ought to live this way.
And I don't want my daughter to feel like that.
We want a world where men and women are treated equally.
And to do that, you need to work with men.
We can't just say that gender equality is something that women should work on.
C'est nous-mêmes ensemble qui besoin changer.
We're working with men to improve the lives of women and girls and families and communities.
To change what they think it is to be a man.
To change gender stereotypes, to break social norms, and to promote gender equality.
I ask myself every day, what can I do to be part of the solution?
My father was never there for me, and I don't want to be like that. I want to be different.
Vamos acá. Yo quiero enseñarle que puedo cambiar el mundo. Y si yo le puedo enseñar eso a él, él lo puede enseñar a su hijo. Y para los generations de ahí.
Tout bagay yo ap chanje. Pichi, LGBT.
We as men need to step up.
And we need to support that.
So that we can change the world.
Sound quality, I hope you could hear it. We'll be able to share the link to the video afterward. And I have another video later in the presentation. I'm not sure if we can do something about sound, but we'll see. So this was Men Engage, a global network alliance of more than 1,000 organizations working to engage boys and men in gender equality. Emancipator was inspired by Men Engage, so we exist 10 years now. We came forth from Men Engage. We're an active member. We work on broad fields of violence and safety, work and care, gender and diversity, relations and sexuality. And next slide, please. We talk about in the Netherlands about men's emancipation, because gender equality is also always framed as women's emancipation. And we define men's emancipation as the contribution that men have to do to the emancipation of women and LGBTIQA+ people, and transforming traditional masculinity norms and liberating men, because there is a lot at stake for men themselves. Next. We have two key issues, you could say, preventing violent masculinity and promoting caring masculinities, which would be the next slide. We adopted the White Ribbon campaign that started 35 years in Canada, asking men to speak out about violence against women. And also we joined the Global Men Care, Global Fatherhood campaign, and broadened it, actually, the scope to promoting caring masculinities in the broader sense, also in workshops talking with boys about the possibility of choosing a career path in care, or in promoting informal care roles for men. Next, please. Yeah, the men box, I'm not sure what you did when I wasn't here, but this is like a key thing that always comes up. The men box is really a quite narrow straitjacket for men that they, of expectations that we have to live up to. And feminine circle resembles the expectations of women in femininity. And for men it is, and for women both, it is really challenging, and you will be punished if you step out of these norms. At the same time, emancipation has also shown that women need these so-called masculine qualities to claim gender equality, to enter traditional male domains and positions in society. So for women, even though there is punishment, there will also be a possible reward. For men, still the main challenge is that they are not allowed to be, or to be seen or perceived as feminine or gay or sissy or whatever. So this is a concept that's being used around the world in Men Engage, and also where I always find so inspiring that we seem to face the same challenges no matter what country, culture, age group, background, education, or whatever. You will get similar answers in all these groups. Can we have the next? Here's a video that we adopted from White Ribbon Canada for our current Redefine Masculinity campaign. I hope
We've all heard comments like, "Be a man. Real men don't cry. Man up." It's like men are boxed in and expected to follow very narrow expectations of manhood. For many, being in the man box means repressing emotions, never being vulnerable, being stoic, angry, in control, aggressive, viewing women as objects, being heterosexual, having wealth and power. You can probably think of people around you who try to fit into this old-fashioned rigid box. Social pressure and fear of not fitting in play a big role in keeping men inside of it. And, unfortunately, as men, we are expected to live inside of the man box from childhood well into adulthood. But something we tend to ignore are the consequences this has on the well-being of men and their relationships. For instance, men who feel they never need to ask for help or support are less likely to visit doctors and therapists. Those who avoid being vulnerable and emotionally aware might not learn the skills needed for happy, meaningful, and healthy connections with others. And the belief that men should be overpowering, dominant, and always in control could lead to bullying, harassment, lack of consent, and violence. Challenging the man box is not about shaming men. It's about becoming mindful of how we define masculinity. Choosing empathy, vulnerability, emotional awareness, strong communication skills, and nonviolence over the outdated man box can radically improve our lives and relationships. Masculinity shouldn't feel like a box. Redefine manhood in a way that works for you and support your friends to do the same. Help us build a future free of sexism, misogyny, heterosexism, transphobia, and all forms of discrimination where men advocate for respect, equity, and fairness. Think outside the box and lead your own destiny. Learn more about the things you can do to build a new version of masculinity by visiting whiteribbon.ca.
Please. So this pyramid may be familiar to you. Oh yeah, it's even in the guide. And what is interesting, I mean, we didn't think of this ourselves. Actually, this is going around the internet for years in different forms. And we adopted the pyramid after Me Too, actually. Until then, before that, we had been really sending the message, violence is a big problem, violence against women is a problem, and it's a men's problem. After Me Too, suddenly men came to us and said, okay, now I understand, it's a problem, it's a men's problem, but how can it be my problem? I don't do murder, I don't rape, I don't do sexual assault, all these bad things. So how can I be part of the solution? And then we took the one of the pyramids, or the pyramid idea from internet, and we created this version without the base lower. And it was really a good opener for conversations with men, because they recognized the victim blaming, the homophobia, the locker room talk, the sexist rape jokes, the slut shaming, etc. So they recognized this in their environment or even in their own behavior, and they felt like, okay, this is where I can start a conversation, this is where I can start making a change, even with not doing these things or speaking out about them or not liking them when they happen. And then actually, in the past years, in all our work that we call gender transformative work, questioning masculinity, redefining masculinity, asking what kind of men do you want to be, what kind of men do you want to see in the world? 5 minutes, thanks. Actually became clear that this man box is part of the same problem. It's part of the culture that that excuses, normalizes, and reinforces sexism, gender inequality, and violence. So we cannot say, oh, man up, men should be real men, but they shouldn't do all those things. We should allow men to be more human and not just keep them in this man box. So can we have the next? There's some challenges with this. Gloria Steinem phrases one of them. We've begun to raise our daughters more like sons, but few have the courage to raise our sons more like our daughters. And misogyny is everywhere in society, and it's clear when women start doing men's things and prove that they can do them as good as men or even better, men feel threatened already. But when men need to start doing things or seeming to be like women, it becomes dangerous. So we really need to have that conversation and to start revaluing whatever the things are that we call feminine, because we need those as a society, we need those as men. And we have to acknowledge that all humans have all these human qualities represented in ourselves. Next, please. It's also important to realize that men also suffer from patriarchy, from sexism, from violence. And there's men's violence against women and trans people. There's men's violence against other men. There's men's violence against themselves also. Man up is also kind of violence. Not knowing your boundary is also kind of violence that happens to men all the time. Men suffer also from men's violence. Can we have next? I always love this quote of bell hooks. The first act of violence that patriarchy demands of my males is not violence toward women. Instead, patriarchy demands of all males that they engage in acts of psychic self-mutilation, that they kill off the emotional parts of themselves. If an individual is not successful in emotionally crippling himself, he can count on patriarchal men to enact rituals of power that will assault his self-esteem. Yeah, next, please. Also important, we talk easily about men as if they're one group, and we all know that women are clearly not one, but very diverse and changing, etc. And the same is, of course, true for men. So this is a model, the triangle of the politics of masculinity, developed by Michael Messner. That is good to keep in mind that when we deal with men and masculinities, there is differences and inequalities in their subject positions, in their positions in societies, in communities, towards the topics that we're working on. And based on those differences and inequalities, men will have different positions with different either costs of masculinity or needs or vulnerabilities or responsibilities and institutionalized privileges. So the position of fathers can be different, the position of men of color is different, the position of gay men or bisexual men or trans men is different from cis, straight, white, upper class men, for example. Can we have next? Oh yeah, this is, we're gonna skip this, but it gives an idea of all the intersectionalities possible. It's clear that we should acknowledge and also actually celebrate the diversity amongst men if we want men to become more human, because otherwise we keep them in this straitjacket. Next, please. Yeah, some examples of the campaign that we started. What kind of men do you want to be? But it's good to ask this question, and not just what do you want to be, but also what kind of men do we want to see in the world? And what kind of partners, what kind of bystanders, lovers, friends, or humans do we want to be and do we want to see? We need to have this conversation. Next. So we had 8 months of men answering this question on Instagram 2 years ago now. You can still find like 200 of these answers on our Instagram account. And now recently, next please, we adopted this campaign from White Ribbon Canada. Let's redefine masculinity, using the video, using Instagram posts, and just putting words like kindness, love, empathy, vulnerability, emotions, freedom, accountability, and passion in combination with man and masculinity changes already a lot, because these are not the first words that people think of when we ask with the man box exercise, what do you think of when we define masculinity? So we need to redefine. Yes, please. Finally, and a warning, engaging men in gender equality and in violence prevention also risks creating new heroes. Knights in shining armor coming to the rescue of the damsel in distress. This would be fitting very much in the men box, and we see initiatives, real men don't rape or whatever. And it can be good intentions, but then still we spread the message that men have to be real men with all the men box problems attached to that. So next please. Men Engage developed accountability standards and guidelines. There is a whole toolkit, there is trainings that I could recommend to anyone who wants to work with boys and men for gender equality. There's a lot of pitfalls, there is a lot of learned lessons in Men Engage, in our partner organizations, in close collaboration with the women's movement, because our work is very simple, but it's not easy. I think I'd like to conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens. We are now going to continue with a panel discussion, continuing on the discussion we had a bit earlier after the introduction of the different partners. So if all the partners who have stood here before can come to the front. So the people who are on this screen, can they come to sit here? And we will have a panel discussion, led by Boss.
So for the next part, I'm really happy that Anna, Laura, Ginny, and Justina, to say it correctly, that you join us for this panel discussion on, and I called it a panel discussion on policies and practices, because some of you are really from the field working on practices, doing, well, you're going to tell us more about it, and some maybe also more a little bit on policies. First, I just want to do a round. We already heard from you a little bit, but that was mainly as an organization. And I'm also curious, why are you, as a person, working in this field? I mean, you could have also been working in, I don't know what. So, why are you doing this?
More than 20 years, I'm interested more the child sexuality. This is what I do on my own, and also in the university, a lot of research about child sexuality. And my colleague Vanda, she's not here, and she invited me to this project, told me that, Juska, I think that you are the best person who can tell something more, because the sexuality, what we can see in the keynote also, is important for us because we are sexuality all the time. And this is, I think, is important that when we talk about the street harassment, it's not connected with the sex, I think, and the gender, because the women and the men have very often the same experience. And for me, it's important because I'll really learn a lot what I said, even in my stereotypic about some kind of things, and meet the people from another cultures, for another religion, whatever. They show us that this is really important to talk. Yeah, because when we talk, we can recognize the problem, and then we can do it something. It means change. And for me, the change is important.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, why did we? Because I didn't start Fairspace alone. I was together with my co-founder, Eve. And I think it was personal frustrations that led us to look into the topic of street harassment. She experienced it a lot in Amsterdam, where she was living at the time as a LGBTQ woman. And I was living in Rotterdam, but I also lived in Italy and Jordan. And in all the three countries, street harassment is so persistent. And at that time, when we talked about violence against women, it was very much intimate partner violence, domestic violence, but not street harassment. It wasn't recognized, at least in the Netherlands, as a form of violence against women. So we thought that has to change, because it's so persistent, it's so common. I do not know anyone, any woman at least, that hasn't experienced street harassment. So yeah, that's what led us to get into action.
Hi everyone, I'm Ginny. I work for the municipality of Amsterdam. But before that, I've been working for the municipality for the last 2 years, but before that I worked for over a decade in international human rights. And I think what was shown by Jens, the whole pyramid about the starting point, the base, I think that's what we're talking about, because it all leads to much worse things. And I think if you really want to make a change, that's when we need to look at street harassment as not like just a, it's just something that's normal. And it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult, but I do also like challenges, and I like to have an impact. So I think this role really fits with me, because it's definitely a huge challenge to work with on behalf of the municipality on this issue. But I also think it is something where we can make a huge impact, and it's not just about street harassment, it is the entire pyramid. So that's my motivation.
Hello again. Why am I here? I'm involved in the project because street harassment is our everyday life. And I work with vulnerable people, with vulnerable youngsters. And I've seen in these 15 years I've been working with youngsters that even though politics and legislation is better and better, their lives and they are suffering more and more every day. And I think street harassment happens every day at school and outside, and even at home with social media and things like that. And I think it's worse now than before when I started. So I think we have to tackle this problem.
Yeah, we saw what happened before with the second mic, so we're gonna do it like this. Thank you all. For me, that's also always like the why is where I want to start. So then maybe also the next thing, can you tell me a little bit about your organization? I mean, you both already talked a little bit also within this project, but maybe you want to add something more to that. But especially Fairspace, can you tell me a bit more? What is Fairspace? What do you do? Where? How does it work? And also the municipality. Ginny, can you tell me more about the Safe Cities project Amsterdam is a part of, and well, anything you want to add to that?
I can say nothing more about the university because it's a classical.
Fair Space is an organization focused on preventing and ending different forms of harassment. We started focusing on street harassment, putting it on the agenda, putting it on the political agenda. It was actually Amsterdam that was the first city in the Netherlands that developed a plan of action against street harassment. And I guess you'll talk further about the Safe Cities program, but in the meantime, I think about 12, 13 other cities in the Netherlands have developed this. Sorry? 20. Oh, wow. It's been a while since I checked the website. 20 cities have developed plans of actions against street harassment. And I can say that since a couple of years, street harassment is really recognized in the Netherlands as a form of violence against women and girls. It's also part of the national action plan that the government has developed. And as Fair Space, we transitioned a bit from agenda setting to interventions. One of the main pillars in our interventions is bystander intervention, because we didn't want to put the pressure on people experiencing street harassment, having to speak out, having to raise their voices, having to state their boundaries. But we wanted to include society as a whole in changing the norms and break, do you say break? Stop the culture of looking away, basically. So we give a lot of bystander intervention workshops to students, youth workers, but also in the workplace. That's it, I think, for now.
So when it comes to Amsterdam municipality, as you mentioned, we indeed have a plan of action when it comes to tackling street harassment. But one of the things that we've also tried in the past is to have local laws to make street harassment illegal. However, that didn't hold up in court. Rotterdam also had made their own law, and it was seen as an infringement on freedom of speech. I know it's mind-blowing. However, that was what was ruled by the court, and it was said you can only limit that on a national level. So as of when was it? 20th of March. Was it 20th of March? I mean, it was mid-March. Let's say mid-March. It makes it easy. Mid-March. The law that tackles street harassment, or it's an article of a larger law, became reality. And it will be enforced as of the 1st of July 2024. So we're very excited about it. But I also have to say that many challenges come with it, and that we as a municipality, and I think nationally also, really focus on that. It is very important that it is now written in law, because it's an acknowledgement that it's not okay. But at the same time, it is really, really important, all the work that everybody's doing in this room, because it is not just about the law and that's it, because we need to change the culture. So one of the things that we do, like one hand, of course, we're preparing for the law, but we also, for many years, have been focusing on how can we tackle street harassment. And we really do believe in engaging people in it. So we work with Emancipator, we work with Fair Space, because it's about having that conversation with men and boys, but also how do we help bystanders who often say like, well, I want to do something, but I don't know how to do that safely. So to give them the tools, but also youth workers to give them the tools to sometimes to step out of that zone of not feeling comfortable to say something. How can we do it? So I think that's really important to stress that we're very happy that this is law, but it's a whole of it. It's a whole package deal in our opinion. When it comes to Safe Cities is something that is coming from the national level. I'm also very glad to see Mofisi present here, and that supports the different cities on that are part of Safe Cities. What that means is that various cities in the Netherlands, including Amsterdam, have agreed with the ministries that it is a very important issue, and with that actually also comes a commitment with putting money into it. So as Amsterdam, we're pouring out some of our own resources, but we also get resources from the national level. And I think it's really important that if you have policy, to make that into reality, you also need to back that up with funding. Would I like to see more funding? Of course, but I think we're on the right path.
As my colleague said before, I come from Ocharcoaga, which is a school. It's a regular school, let's say, but we are very different from the schools we have around because of our students. We are focused since the very beginning of the birth of the school in 1964. We are focused on vulnerable people. Vulnerable because of many things, because they may have special needs, special education needs. Some of them, well, most of them have curriculum mismatches, and they've been rejected from the regular education system, and we are like the last opportunity that they have the secondary education degree, or that they can have a vocational education degree. We have our pupils have a lot of backgrounds. We have a lot of migrant students, so that come from a migrant family, from Morocco, Algeria, and South America mostly. But we have quite a diverse range of people, and that's it. And they have mental issues, legal issues, and sometimes they are all mixed in the same classroom and sometimes in the same person. So it is a very challenging work, but very motivating. And that's it. This is what differentiates us from other schools around.
Like I said, it's also about policies and practices. And I heard you say like a cultural change, reaching out to people, having interaction, talk about this bigger issue. But also heard, Ginny, you talking about new legislation, and I also know in other countries there is or might not be legislation. So for you, how do you see that combination? Like if you want to change the culture around this topic of street harassment, do we need policies? Do we need practices? How do they come together? Is it just workshops, just law? What do you think?
I think it's not such easy if your government support the violence, for example. Because before changing situation in Poland, we have a government when we have very old definition of the rape, for example, in Poland, and now we still fight for change this. It's horrible because the blame victim is normally in Poland, yes, and we still all the time want to fight with that. That's why the question is also, we talked about the practice, policy, all of these things, but what when the government support the violence, and you couldn't find any support from the government because they say that this is normal. The domestic violence is a normal because, you know, the role of the women in the houses is in the kitchen, for example, she prepared the food, whatever, yes? But some of them even says that, for example, women should stay at home, not for education, because when they go to the education, they are stupid more, or something like that. And when your president says something like that, your country is horrible, yes? Now everything is changed, and I hope for a good, that it will be revolution in Poland. I still believe in that. But I think it's not easy. But for example, my university is really amazing with that part. Is very open for diversity. And I think is important also for a change. But in Poland, for example, my person was on the blacklist, like a person who is interested with a gender, LGBT, sexuality. It means that, you know, I was the first person who can be, how to say, when you quit the, fired, for example, yes? And my government know that Pasikowska is this person, yes? But now the government is changed and I still work at the university.
Congratulations. Yeah. what was your question? Sorry. Oh, the policy and yeah. No, I think if I hear your story, we are lucky that at least our government supports the new legislation. One thing that we have noticed when it comes to legislation and political support, sometimes the political support comes from corners that is not necessarily, how to explain it? Sometimes these type of laws against street harassment or laws for women's emancipation comes from corners that are not necessarily for the emancipation of women, but they want to, boss, help me because you know what I'm trying to say.
Like saying, well, especially target certain groups, bicultural groups, because they really need it.
So they try to highlight the. No, I'm stuck in my story. Sorry. Again, about the legislation, something else I wanted to share is that we are, of course, very happy that this legislation is getting into force 1st of July. But from the start, we have said as Fair Space, okay, this is important as it is an important development milestone, but you will not end street harassment with legislation, as we've seen in Belgium, we've seen in France. I think Argentina as well already had a law into place. So yes, legislation, that's great for setting a norm. But it needs to be backed up with actual practice, supporting community groups, reaching out to communities, smaller scale initiatives, we would say, because we also very often see the government then supporting new legislation or new policies with those large marketing campaigns at bus stops or at metros or in television. But we also know, and also from research from the University of Rotterdam, that if you do not see yourself as a perpetrator of violence or as perpetrator of street harassment, you will not recognize the message from these campaigns. So I feel that having the conversations, working very closely with the youth as you do in the school, can have way more impact, maybe fewer people in the amount of time, but more impact than a larger initiative which is not tailor-made.
Yeah, so I think it's important to also look at street harassment from a much broader perspective. Sometimes just naming street harassment already puts people off, but from my role, what I'm trying to do is also to see like, hey, where if we really look at policies, one of the things, for example, is that when we provide licenses to bars and clubs, like one of the things that we're now looking at is there social safety policy, like so not just about general. They will always have to have a safety plan, but does it include social safety? So these are things that you could look at to include, but also when it comes to education, what is it? Is it taken up in the curriculum? You don't necessarily have to call it street harassment, but if we're talking about consent, all of these things, and the earlier exercise that we did about being able to say no, so it doesn't, you don't necessarily link that directly with street harassment, but it very much has to do with one another. So then you go into another field, which is education and working with the youth. But also when we design cities, are we looking into like, it is friendly for cyclists. I mean, we love bicycles here in Holland. So we look at that. But and is wheelchair friendly? But do we also then look at from a safety perspective? Because when we talk about street harassment, it's also about the enabling environment and the physical safety part. That is also something that plays a role in it. So I think when it comes to policies, you can get quite creative. Look at existing ones, because that's often the low-hanging fruit. Because if you can make that change, then you already change it as a sustainable way within the entire system. So
because Anna, I want to zoom in after what they said to a more specific question to you as well. And to introduce it, I think we've talked a lot about perpetrators, and then we also mentioned sometime, like in sentences, so we're talking about men and boys. Just to make clear, we're doing that because we know that from research all over Europe, we see that when it comes to street harassment, gender-based violence, at least 90% of the perpetrators turn out to be men or boys. Which doesn't mean, and this is something I always want to stress, doesn't mean that 90% of the men and boys are a perpetrator or want to be a perpetrator. And that's where we also say, and that's also part of the journey of Equalley, that's why we see the opportunity to include boys and men as part of the solution. To talk about, like Jens said, what kind of a man do you want to be as a part of the solution. But sometimes that is a difficult thing, because maybe we meet them for the first time, or we put it on the agenda because we see them as perpetrators, maybe something happened. They come into your school, sometimes also because the things they've done. So how do you work with them to not just say, okay, I understand the pyramid now, I'll try my best not to do anything wrong, but how do they become part of the solution? What's your experience on that, if there is any?
I would really like to tell you the solution, but it is not. I think there is no solution for the problem, of course. But the first thing you have to think that is that you have one individual and you have to work with this individual, and you have to take into account the background of the whole person, not just what he or she did or why they are here. So we try to establish a link, an effective link with our students. With some of them is easy because they are willing to have a link with an adult and with a proper adult, because they have what they have at home or in their lives. But it is important to establish a link and trust in them so that they can trust you, and do not judge. People can change, they are young, so you have to work on that. This is the base, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah, thank you on that. And I think when it comes to including men and boys as part of the solution, how can a bystander intervention be an easy way to learn to become that, and also take into account, like Jens said, like how do you make sure then that you don't become the knight in shining armor who, because sometimes we teach them that as well. Well, you just jump in and punch the other guy in the face, but then we are creating a new form of violence. So men as bystanders, how does that work?
Yeah, well, it's good to realize that everyone can be a bystander at any given moment, whether you just walk out of here and something happens in front of you on the bicycle, bus stop. So not only men are bystanders, but what we notice is that there are a lot of men, I have to say mainly young men, who have this question of, okay, I want to do something, of course I'm willing to help someone out, or I don't want to give somebody a feeling of unsafety, but how do I do it without scaring somebody even more when I approach that person? And that's where bystander intervention can come in. So in our courses, we don't teach people to become this knight in shining armor and to like jump in a situation and be the hero and address the other person who's misbehaving. But there are also other ways that you can be a bystander, which is when you observe something, you check in with the person who has experienced unwanted behavior or street harassment. So you don't even need to interfere with a perpetrator of street harassment, but you can also walk up to the person who experienced it and say, are you okay? Do you want me to wait around for the bus to come? Do you want me to walk with you to the nearest supermarket where you need to be? It can also be when you're not by yourself, but when you're with a group of friends and you see somebody misbehaving or carrying out street harassment, that you and your friends together address the situation. You don't have to do that in an aggressive way. It can be very low-key. It can be by just saying, hey, come on, knock that out, leave that person alone. So it's actually more effective to tone it down as a bystander than to jump up and jump in with your moral high ground or your argument or maybe a aggressive attitude.
Can I say something? Because I thought about the patterns, for example. Because when we were born not only the family, in the history of the family and in the culture. And I think that we do it something in a school, but they back to the home. And they have totally different way, and internalization, for example, how to be the man, how to be the women, and then they go to school. And I think that this is also the problem with the patterns of the how we look and what we have in our mind, how to be the man. What does it mean, the man? Yes, or the women, for example. Yes, our father, for example, even one of the, I remember when I talk about our project, and one of the professor of the conference asked me, okay, but when I talk with another professor and you don't hear this, but I said, oh, you such a, and I said, this is the violence or not? I don't answer for that.
Yeah, does a tree make sound when it's cut down in the wood and no one is around? Yeah, interesting question. I've heard many questions where, if we had time, I would take an hour more to talk with all of you. But for now, I really want to thank you for this contribution, and hopefully you can thank them as well. And I've heard some questions that we will dive in further after the break that I'm going to announce now, because we're going to have a break until 3 o'clock. So it's a quick one where you can go to the toilet, have a drink or whatever. So we can transition the room. When we come back, we will have a World Cafe where we go deeper in some of the topics that we just discussed. For instance, what are best practices when it comes to engaging boys and men, and many more. I think it's also the moment to thank the people on the live stream for joining us, either right now or in the future, whenever you might see this. So thank you. And for us all, it's a small break. Enjoy your break. See you back. Another thank you to the 4 of you.